It started with a heat so intense it felt otherworldly. The wind howled down the Los Angeles hills, carrying with it a storm of embers that glowed like fireflies in the choking haze. The firestorm erupted with a ferocity no one had seen before, consuming everything in its path. As flames leaped from tree to mansion, chaos unfurled across the city, turning the jewel of the West Coast into a fiery inferno. The mansions of the Hollywood elite, perched high on the hills like crown jewels, were the first to go. Homes worth hundreds of millions, art collections, rare artifacts, bespoke furniture, obliterated in seconds. Some of the most famous estates, where generations of power had dwelled, were reduced to smouldering ash. Beverly Hills, Bel Air, Malibu, names synonymous with wealth and privilege, became unrecognizable. The air reeked of burning money and broken dreams. The strange part, though, was the sky. It wasn't just smoke or ash blotting out the sun. There were streaks of crimson and eerie, flickering lights, almost as if the heavens themselves were tearing apart. Whispers began to spread. Was this just another wildfire, or was something darker at play? Conspiracy theorists had been ranting for months about secret government experiments, rituals, and portals. A small but growing group claimed that powerful people, ones who lived in those very hills, had been dabbling in things beyond their understanding, opening doors that were never meant to be opened. Most dismissed it as nonsense. But now, as the city burned, some were wondering if the fires were an accident or a consequence. Meanwhile, the media played its part, churning out stories that seemed designed to distract. News outlets focused on petty scandals and celebrity gossip, ignoring the questions everyone was too afraid to ask. Why had the fire hydrants run dry? Why had no preventative measures been taken in one of the most fire-prone regions in the world? Why had warnings about an impending disaster been buried under endless cycles of meaningless headlines? People in the streets were too preoccupied with survival to dig deeper. Looting broke out in what remained of the city. Flames danced across the skyline, and the air was so thick with ash that it fell like snowfall, a hellish blizzard of death and destruction. Some called it the snowfall from hell, a phrase that would haunt history books for decades. And yet, in the midst of the chaos, there were sightings, strange ones. Figures walking through the flames, untouched. Lights in the sky that weren't helicopters or planes. Survivors in the hills claimed they heard whispers coming from the fire itself, voices speaking in languages no one recognized. The portals, theories once dismissed as lunatic ramblings, were starting to feel more plausible. But no one could focus on it for long. The world was crumbling in real time, and the people were too busy fighting over scraps of what was left. The irony was almost too much to bear. Those who had built their fortunes and lives in the hills were now on the streets, indistinguishable from those they once ignored. Rich or poor, everyone was equal in the face of this apocalypse. The official narrative was clear: climate change, poor city management, and arson. But there was something more, something no one dared to say out loud. The fire hadn't just taken lives and property, it had taken reality itself and warped it. Whatever had been opened, whether by accident or design, was still out there, its effects spreading. And as the city smouldered and its people scattered, one question lingered. Was Los Angeles just the beginning? GAP 3S